Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to this delayed or postponed Going the Distance live. Sorry, I missed everybody yesterday. Got a little hung up in some bad weather traveling back from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and was way later than I planned on getting back. So kind of ran out of time to do the podcast. But thanks everybody for popping on tonight and hanging out with us for the next bit. Quick updates on where I'll be in the next week. I'll be racing the Bull City 8K, which is a USATF North Carolina Championship event in Durham on Saturday morning, bright and disgustingly early at 7:15. I don't want to know what time or even think about what time I'm going to have to set my alarm for Saturday morning. It scares me even thinking about it. And then next week for National Running Day, I will be at Fleet Feet here in High Point, North Carolina, hanging out. I think National Running Day is kind of an important day in my group of people, so I'll be hanging out there. So this past weekend, I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Michael, all my fast break stuff is still disgusting and wet. It's actually currently in the washing machine, which is why I said it's still wet. But yeah, I opened up my suitcase today and it smelled horrendous. Don't know where everybody else is at, but we have had a ton of rain here in the South. My shoes have been wet for seemingly the last 10 days or 2 weeks, and none of it's dried out. So hopefully that weather will start to slowly get sunny again. I'm tired of being soaked on every one of my runs. But anyways, over the weekend, I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee for the Chattanooga Chase. Beth, I will be at the Fleet Feet in High Point, North Carolina. Let's see. Yeah, and that'll be June 6th. So that's, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. I don't know my days right now. Should probably put a calendar in front of me. Yeah, June 6th is next Wednesday. So I'll be hanging out there for a bit, as long as I can that night. So anyways, we were in Chattanooga for an 8K race and a 1 mile race on Monday for Memorial Day. I got to hang out with the awesome people at Fast Break Athletics for most of the weekend. Big shout out to Alan Outlaw and Michael Green and everybody there that put up with my nonsense for those first few days I was there. Had some awesome group runs from the store on Saturday and Sunday, and then a baller race on Monday. Over the last 3 years, or really 2 years, I guess, 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, I've slowly got to know a lot more of the running community in Chattanooga and spending time there because of my dear friend Cameron Magnum Bean, a.k.a. Cron City, the one and only. Cameron passed away in September of 2015. And he was a dear friend, a fellow professional runner, and had been a rival of ours in college. So he was somebody that I initially really hated. Honestly, we really hated his guts on it. We could not stand him in college. But like dogs that are barking at each other on opposite sides of the fence, once we got on the same side of the fence and he moved to the mountains, we quickly became really, really, really close. And when he passed away, he was somebody that was very important in my running career, and I'm going to talk about that here in a few minutes. But they host a memorial race for him every year, and I had the opportunity to win it the first year in 2016. Last summer, I was dealing with all my treatments and stuff, so I was not in the best of shape, but I still went over and ran the event. It's a double event. They have a 5K in the morning and a 1 mile race downtown that night during a bike criterium race. And I've gotten to know a lot of the people there outside of Cameron's family very well. I've gotten to spend a good deal of time with the people there in Chattanooga and kind of watch some of these races grow and keep an eye on them. And it's just been so cool to watch running kind of catch on in that community. As part of the Chattanooga Chase, I believe this year it was one of the largest ones, if not the largest one they had ever had. And just a few years ago, they had gotten down to like 50 or 60 people running the race. And now I believe they had over 700 or 800 sign up and run. And the atmosphere was amazing. The course was super difficult, which is a lot of people shy away from. And I'll go down this rabbit hole really quick. And a lot of people in running and track and field, a lot of times they're super worried about running a really fast time instead of pushing themselves or competing. And I've certainly been one of those people at times, especially on the track. You're trying to run as fast as you possibly can most of the time. But people search for courses that are, Boston Marathon qualifiers when they're running marathons. They don't want to run one that's not a Boston qualifier. They don't want to run one that's too hard. They don't want to. So very rarely now do you find courses that are actually kind of difficult and challenging. But this one particularly was super challenging the first 3 miles. In fact, it's so challenging that they have a King of the Mountain award, which is awarded to the person that gets to the top just before 3 miles of the mountain or the hill first. And that so happened to be yours truly. And he won himself a hydration pack courtesy of the Chattanooga Track Club. So I will be sporting that most of my summer here, making sure I stay hydrated with my little backpack and my goos and my gel. But if anybody's looking for one, I'll be happy to sell you one. So look for that on eBay very shortly. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. I got some revenge on a guy that beat me during the 5K the first year of the Cam Run. I got him back in the mile, and Christian, it was a guy named Christian Thompson. He also ran at Colorado. He's a super good runner. He was just top 20 at the Boston Marathon. I believe he was 18th or 19th, he said. So he's in really good fitness. So to beat him kind of at his game in a longer event just really jacked me up because as we all know, like I've kind of been on the out for the last 2 years now, and a year and a half almost, and haven't had really ton of success in running. And when I have raced and have run, I'm kind of been at the back of the group. So to get a win over a couple of really good kids, really good guys. One of them was a young kid that's really fast already in college. It was a good boost for the ego. And it was fun seeing everybody out there on a misty, so humid morning that you could literally taste what Chattanooga tastes like. I have a good, nice understanding of what Chattanooga, the city, really tastes like after those couple of days there and all that heat and humidity. And granted, I grew up in South Carolina. I live in North Carolina in the flatlands now. I know what heat and humidity are. But those particular days there, it was just particularly thick. And Chattanooga's got a nice blue collar Southern charm with a little side of sweet sauce, nice and thick. So I will forever remember what that air tastes like right now. But anyways, the event was awesome. You run through these really gorgeous neighborhoods along the country club over there in Chattanooga and on these big wide roads. And Chattanooga, for anybody that doesn't know, is in the foothills. So you can see the Blue Ridge Mountains in the distance. And I got to take in some of that scenery over the last mile and a half and really enjoy being good at running again. And it's really, really jacked me up. It jacked me up to be able to go over there and put on a show for those people, because that's what it was. And they really, really enjoyed having somebody, who they deemed really fast come into town and run. And so we put on a show for them during the 8K and during the mile, and got people excited about running, even managed to sneak it into the local newspaper, which never happens anymore. So I left the race just feeling really good about what's going on, about where my fitness is at, and for the coming summer, after just not really having a handle on where I was at, and it gives me a lot of confidence going into the summer that I know that I can accomplish what I can do. I've got another 8K this Saturday that'll kind of give me a little more idea where my actual fitness is at, and I'm not such a tough course. I will be racing this guy named Steven Anderson here that just popped on, that is a training partner of mine here in town, and a very, very tough runner, plus a lot of other runners from North Carolina. And I will really be tested on Saturday, so it's gonna be fun. I actually kind of just getting a little nervous thinking about it. Jim Bean, great weekend in chat town. Enjoy spending time with you. Yeah, we got some really, really good family time in with the Beans on Memorial Day and a few days after. Jim, sorry, I did not make it over to check out your guitar collection. We can definitely do that in August. In August, when I come back over, we need to set aside a specific time to do that. And do some old picking of the La Guitarra. So I had about an hour, honestly, if I'm being honest, I had about an hour to do it, and I just knew that wasn't going to be long enough on Wednesday. So Jim, I do apologize, because we are going to have some time to sit down and play. But anyways, I did a lot of thinking while I was there, and some stuff kind of hit me that I wasn't really prepared to deal with at the time, and it had kind of been on my mind before this. And as I mentioned, I put the photo of me winning the Cameron Mile, of the Magnum Mile, and from the Cam Run, on the cover of my book, Going the Distance. And I did that for a reason. And I have a picture from that race that literally is sitting right above this computer right now, where me and my other best friend are running the mile side by side, because between the two of them, between Cameron and my best friend Chris Moen, they're responsible for me running again. Because and I've said it several times, and if you listen to the any of the couple of actually other podcasts that I got to be a guest on recently, I kind of allude to it and talk about how I was on a specific run in Boone with those two guys when I decided to start running again after having given it up in 2013. And you never think at the time, or never realize at the time, and you can't, because it's kind of impossible to, honestly. But you never realize what little small things will happen, what little left or right turns your life makes, and how impactful those decisions will be. Because on that run that day, it was the first time in a long time, and this was 2013, and I'd had kind of 2 years of bad health there and struggling with it in 2012 and 2013, early 2013, and in late August of 2013, I had kind of gotten drug out the door to go for a run with Cameron and my other best friend Moen, who were both running for the professional group at the time, Zap Fitness. And they drugged me out the door, and we went on this run, and it was the first time that I could remember in a very, very long time feeling like a real runner again. It felt effortless. It felt like running was supposed to feel. I felt free. I felt like I was running free. And I had not had that feeling in so long. And I got done, and I had that fire kind of rekindled on that day. And, you fast forward 2 years later, and, I lose one of those best friends, but he luckily got to see me break 4 minutes for the first time. And he got to see some of my other good friends at that race that were also some of his good friends, because they all came down for that race. And there were so many people there that, because he came to that race, about 6 weeks before he passed away, that, you know, they all came down to watch me race. And so they all got to see Cameron one last time. And you just you don't know with how fragile life is sometimes, like when things like that are going to happen, and things like that just become so much more important. And, it sort of tipped me over the edge, kind of late on Memorial Day. I'd been hanging out with the Beans all day at their house, who's Cameron's parents. And, you know, I split time between the Outlaws and the Beans, and I really can't thank both of them enough for, you know, giving me 5 beautiful days in Chattanooga with some fantastic human beings to be around. It was just a lot of talking, a lot of hanging out, a lot of really good, what I wrote a blog about years ago, genuine human interaction. You know, it was just a lot of talking about life things, talking about things that excite us, talking about the things that, you know, get us down, talk about the things that are tough. And, you know, if it was really refreshing, and I needed it, and it was good for my soul. I told my best friend Moa when I was driving over there, like, I felt really excited, and it felt like I was doing something that was good for my soul to go be where, you know, one of my best friends was, and one of the people that's responsible for this story that I've been able to tell over the last few years. And, you know, I don't want to make that, because in retrospect, it can seem like some huge, like, shining moment from a Disney movie where the light bulb goes off. But at the time, it seemed like something that was just so simple, because I'd made the decision so many other times to continue running. And obviously that the embers were still kind of hot and burning in the pit of my stomach, but they weren't, you know, it wasn't something necessarily that I knew was still there. And maybe that fire would have still rekindled itself in a different way. We have if I hadn't decided to go on that run within that day, and we've got no way of ever knowing, obviously, because we can't go back in time. But I couldn't be more grateful to have the two of them there on that day. And it's become a very, very special, and I was talking to Moen about this after the fact, and, you know, you really don't want to put such an importance on an event like that. But it's impossible for me not to, because, you know, really at the time it was just a laughing, goofing off day. It was not something, it was just another day in one of the most beautiful places on planet Earth. And we were just doing what we all did best, which was enjoy each other's company and run a little bit, or a lot. We kind of went for a long run. It was like 10 miles. But you don't know what life is going to bring over those next following years. And I'd had all kinds of dreams before, but I had never really accomplished any of them yet. And I was starting on the path to accomplishing my goals, to now being able to have the opportunity to, you know, not just accomplish my goals, but share this journey with so many other people. And it really just kind of hit me, sitting out by their pool on Monday. I don't even know what day it is. I've been traveling so long. It really hit me sitting out by their pool on Monday, and I really was not prepared for it to kind of land on me like a ton of bricks. And you know, because we weren't, you know, I miss my friend, and, you know, those wounds never heal. Time obviously helps some, but there's obviously certain things that can just kind of bring all of those things flooding back. And I was dealing with a lot of that late on Monday, and I just feel so lucky in a situation that has been so crazy and unlucky at times. Because obviously I've had to deal with as many people have, and a lot of you know this, like we've all dealt with a lot of adversity in our lives. We've all dealt with a lot of pain and suffering, and those things are real and those things are tough. And I just feel so lucky sometimes to have had a few of these moments in my life that have had huge impacts on my career and changed them. You know, and that was a big one. And I just did so much thinking about that over those couple of days. And, you know, it's why I made the cover of my book, you know, the picture of me winning that race, and why my other best friend wrote the forward in it. And you can kind of see my other best friend mowing way in the background. He wasn't in particularly great shape, but he still came over and ran his heart out and actually finished second in that mile that day. And I think third or fourth in the 5K that morning. But because he was somebody too that Cameron, you know, drastically impacted their life. And, you know, he was another person like me that just really wanted to live life really, really hard and really, really passionately. And I think that's ultimately why the two of us got along, because when we first started hanging out, he helped me get a job like waiting tables and turning beds down at a resort that he was working out at the time. And, you know, that's when we went from kind of friends to like really good friends. And, you know, it was my first stab at professional running right out of college. And, you know, so we were training together every single morning, working together for, you know, 4, 5, 6, 8 hours sometimes, you know, and we were just, you know, getting her done and grinding together and just having a blast. And then, you know, I moved away for a bit and then moved back and, you know, got a good couple of years with them there in the mountains together. And, you know, whether it was tandem bicycle rides on the back of his motorcycle or on the front, you know, when I should not have been driving a motorcycle. But yeah, we lived life really, really hard, and it was incredibly rewarding. And that, I just want people to know that's not lost on me. And I just, you know, I encourage people all the time to chase their dreams. And ultimately it's those moments that really make this all worth it. It's like, yes, breaking 4 was fun. Yes, going to the Olympic trials was fun. Yes, going to the all these races that I've dreamed about since I was a kid, that I've, you know, seen on TV or seen on the internet and read about in track and field news since I was a kid. I've had the opportunity now to race almost all of them. But the things that are really now, as I start to get a little older, that really stick out in my life are some of those moments, more so than some of the racing. And it's some of the moments along that way. And, you know, I know that cliche is so worn out. It's kind of honestly nauseating and disgusting, but it really is about the journey. And I like that. I think that kind of paints the wrong picture sometimes. It's kind of vague, but, you know, it's going to be tough. But there's just some of these just like intense moments that you get along the way that are just gratifying and charging. Like I feel really charged up right now, and it was a really emotional weekend for me. And you know, I went through the full gamut of emotions over the weekend, with a lot of laughing, a good bit of crying, and a lot of smiling, a lot of thinking. But I left Chattanooga on Wednesday after spending time with all these amazing people that I've had the opportunity to meet through the simple act of running, through the simple act of sharing my dream and getting to talk to you people and everybody and you guys about all of this. You know, it's given me a chance to meet some of the, not just my best friends, but just really, really cool, amazing people. And it just gives you these intense moments that they're energizing, man. And I got really, really jacked up, and I've been really, really jacked up since I left. And I just wanted to share all that with you guys, because because I was thinking about that, and that's why I said, like, I think that oh, it's all about the journey, it's not about the destination, just gets said over and over and over again. But I just don't, like so many other things, I just don't think that's the right way to describe it, because that paints it kind of like it's always going to be this, pretty picture, or something that's always going to be so epic, or something like remember the Titans kind of feeling or moment. But obviously, especially as somebody that's a runner, a lot of it's really, really mundane. I ran 7 miles around grass fields this morning. Luckily, I had a little company with Steven. But there's some weeks that literally running 7 miles around a 500 or 600 meter field, so you can get on grass, is not what you have in mind when you're thinking about chasing the dream and chasing the journey. So a lot of it is kind of boring and mind numbing and difficult, but it is, Abby, that's absolutely correct. It's about forming some of those relationships and those bonds, and that's why they're so tight. I think amongst groups of athletes or groups of people that do things together, because what's so great about running, and obviously some other things can nurture the same thing, but like if everybody's going to hang out, like you've got like your phone in the way, you've got a TV distracting you might be at a bar, you might be at a restaurant, like there's things going on. But when you get the opportunity with your best friends to hang out for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and really kind of longer, with all the BS that goes around with us getting ready to run, doing what I call our fairy dances, like doing this stuff and doing these things, like there's not outside distractions that kind of take away from the energy. So the energy just gets really bubbly, and it can go really anywhere at any moment in time. It can get super dark. It can get obnoxious. Most of the time it's obnoxious. It can be super fun. You can have soul searching, life changing conversations, because like, that's what I was thinking about. Like some of these turns I've made in life, I have given me the opportunity to spend an incredible amounts of times with the people that I care about. And it's changed me as a person. It really, really has changed me as a person. I've spent a lot of time during my, I guess, formidable or peak years, like literally just getting to spend loads of times with my friends and ponder questions of the galaxy. And it's changed us all as people, and it's made us better people at times. It's made us definitely worse humans at some moments in time. With some of the decisions we've made, they weren't all good and they weren't all life changing. At least for us, it might have changed some other people's lives, and I apologize. But some people might have gotten hurt along the way, and I do apologize for some of our debauchery. But I mean, that's just youth. But it's just giving you some really intense moments with your friends, where stuff's not, there's not distractions, and you just get to hang out with each other, or just be silent, or whatever the energy needs. You just get to spend this time where there's out interruptions every day. And I encourage people to do that. I encourage people, especially if you do exercise, you do run, to find people to do it with. Because that's what's led to all of this for me, is finding people that I really enjoy doing it with, to share it with. And it's created those relationships that have literally changed my life. And I don't know where else outside of, I know there's other things that can do that and create those intense moments. And if anybody has some, please share. But finding those moments with those friends is something that I will cherish for the rest of my life. And that's what I want to share with people. That's what I want to spread. I want to spread that love for it and that passion that we get from each other, because some of it is intrinsic motivation. obviously, because we're all kind of crazy and this weird wound up type A personality that has to go be doing something. Like my stupid self, like I'm super sick. So what do I decide to do? I decide to write a book because I can't run. I don't, I don't pretend to know how other people handle things, but having those moments has helped me a lot. And having those people to talk with, having those people to go through things with, it's basically a cheap therapist. Occasionally you got to buy your friend a beer, but that's pretty much the cost of it. So I encourage everybody to just kind of I try to I leave everybody every week with go out into the world and learn something that might just change your mind about a subject, or read and learn something that might just change your mind, or listen to something. But you can get those things through your friends too. And I had kind of sort of forgotten about that for a little while. And that's gonna be. I think that's ultimately going to be the challenge, not just with my running, but with this group and with this mission that we have with the Victory Over Vasculitis campaign, and that I'm trying to spread through running and spread in these communities like Chattanooga or here in Jamestown and High Point, is spreading that love of something that you all have together, something you have in common. So whether it's running, whether it's a rare disease, or whether it's the love of painting, or the love of drinking craft beer, or going to breweries, or whatever it is, like find a community to latch into, man. And people that you can really enjoy just kind of wasting the hours away. Because and we're not all people, and it doesn't have to be a lot of people. Like, I'm not saying that all of a sudden you've got to have 50 new friends. That's obviously overwhelming. And it doesn't have to be 10. A lot of these have been very small groups of people that have had large impacts on my life. So I just encourage everybody to do that, and encourage everybody to get engaged in what they're doing, or in what they love, or what they're passionate about. I obviously come from the world of sports, so that's how I kind of relate everything through that lens, because I'm kind of the dumb jock guy. So, find something to do, find something to engage in, find something to make some friends with that you can disconnect. Because I think that's really where all of our time together really got important, was when we had our phones off. Well, hell, half the time in the mountains, they don't work anyways. So it wasn't even by choice most of the time. When we're hanging out down at Zap Fitness, I mean, there's literally like no signal down there. There's barely running water, much less cell phone signal. So yeah, I really want to encourage people to engage in those communities. If you're the active type person, get out there and get active in, find some group runs. I know here in High Point, in Jamestown and Greensboro and the Winston-Salem area, like this area, there's group runs, several nights a week. There's groups that meet on the weekends in the morning. And in about every town there's some of that going on. So engage in that, whether it's like runs or group rides, or, group classes at the gym. There's, people that can get out there and suffer and hurt with and have a good time. Or, go take an art class and find some good people to paint with and spend some time with, or a book club. It could be just a book club, and you all spend a month reading a book, or 2 weeks reading a book, or if you're like me, sometimes like 4 months to read a book, or whatever. Especially when somebody gives you an 800-page book to read, Carolyn and Josh. You create that group. Because I think that's really important, and something as we get older, we lose, because we get busy with our family, we get busy with our jobs, and that's the first thing that always goes, is spending time with your friends. So don't take that for granted, because as I'm aware, and as many of you are also aware, you just don't know when somebody's time might be up, and you will wish that you could have spent more time with those people that you loved and cared about. So I think that's where I'm going to kind of leave this week. I know it's a bit shorter than normal, but this was hard for me to talk about and hard for me to go through. So I hope everybody kind of got something from it. Just, invest in your friends and try to make time for them. Because we don't, hell, I was telling Cameron's parents, if anybody 5 years ago or 3 years ago would have guessed if somebody wasn't going to make it to the end of 2015, it would have probably been me, not him. And here I am, and I'm certainly not taking that for granted, because I know he would Cameron would be on my ass about it, and I know I've got a dream to chase, and we got people left to inspire. We got people left to bring into this group. We got people left to bring into this conversation. So I'm going to keep doing it, and know that I'm energized more than ever for it. So thank you to everybody that was in Chattanooga, Tennessee this weekend that was part of that. The Outlaws, the Beans, in particular, that I spent a lot of time with. You guys were good for my soul, and I needed it, and I love you guys. Love you guys for that. So we will change up that message this week of go out and try to engage a little more in your community of friends, and try to find some time where you're not distracted and you can spend with each other and really enjoy it, because that's what's important. And I'm not saying you got to shut Twitter off all the time, because I spent way too much time on it today. But you've got to find those moments. You got to find that time as much as you can, because we just don't know what we got left. So I love all of y'all, and we're going to keep doing this. Once again, sorry that we're a day late this week, but thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. If you missed at the top of the podcast, I'll be in Durham, North Carolina, racing the Bull City 8K on Saturday morning, bright and early, where most people should still be in bed. So I don't expect to see any of your pretty faces out there. But I will be at the Fleet Feet here in High Point on June 6th for National Running Day at the event that they're hosting up. I'll be throwing up blasting everywhere. Oh, and also I'll toss up with the link of this. I did have the opportunity to speak with one of the big track and field news guys, named Mario Frioli. He runs the Morning Shakeout podcast and has a weekly newsletter. He was kind enough to let me blab for an hour on his podcast. So if you feel like you got cheated out of a few minutes this week here on Going the Distance Live and just need a little more B-Hudge nasty in your life, there's the link for the Morning Shakeout podcast. We had a great conversation. It obviously covered some of the stories, some of the things you guys have heard me endlessly talk about on this show. But we also talk about a good deal of track and field stuff. So if you're hunting some more knowledge on the inside scoops of what professional running is like, or some of the things that really, really piss us off, give that a listen. I promise you'll enjoy it. Anyways, guys, it's been rad this week. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you got something out of it. And just remember, go out into the world and read or learn something this week that might just change your mind. And we'll see you next week.